Jessica desperately wanted to compete in ultra trail races, but if she ran more than just a few miles, the knee pain and swelling was really terrible. What she loved most about trail running was just getting out, hitting the horizon, and running to places that she couldn't see. And she kept doing it, and she pushed herself to go through the pain and finish a 20-mile race, but the pain was so bad, she was hobbling around for 5 days afterwards. When she would talk about it with her colleagues, they would say, "You run how far? You're crazy. You're going to wreck your knees by the time you're like 42." And her social media feed started to fill up with posts about how to fix your knee pain. And she would try the things that they described, but everything that she tried just seemed to make it worse. And she was starting to think, maybe it's just not for me. Maybe ultra trail distances are not something that my knees can actually handle. And then scrolling through Instagram one day, she saw a post that said, runners actually have healthier knees than non-runners. And made her think, well, that can't be right. So she clicked on it. And then she had seen like lots of ultra runners in their 60s, 70s, even 80s. And she thought, well, why can't that be me? If they can do it, like, why not me? And so Jessica was very skeptical, but following reading that post, she decided to click and book a call with me. So we had a chat, and she told me about her dreams of competing in ultra trail races and in leveling up to further races beyond the 50Ks that she'd done. And she described the frustrations that she was experiencing from battling against this knee pain for months and months now. We talked about strength training, and Jessica was convinced that she needed to build up her muscular strength in order to protect her knees. But she was finding it hard because she found that every time she would do a strength workout, she would get muscle soreness that would last for a few days. And then that would limit her ability to go out and run. And that would limit her ability to log the miles, which is an absolute no-no if you want to be an aspiring ultra runner. And this is a common mistake that runners, long-distance runners, ultra runners particularly make, is that they feel like they're missing out on the opportunity to log some miles by doing strength training, especially if that strength training is resulting in a few days of soreness. And what I told Jessica is that you have to earn those miles. You earn them with your strength training. And when I said that, that's when she knew, okay, maybe this guy can help me. And when we talked about it in more detail, it was clear that her muscles for the goals that she had were just not strong enough. I mean, frankly, they were weak as hell because she was doing bodyweight lunges and band resisted exercises. And clearly, 3 sets of 10 bodyweight lunges are just not sufficient to build the kind of strength and power you need in your muscles to protect your knees when you want to run events that often last over 6 hours. She was doing strength training, but it wasn't actually increasing her strength. It wasn't making her any stronger. But then she was still stuck in that conundrum. If she went heavier or did more volume of strength training, the muscle soreness would be so bad for a few days that she then couldn't run as much. So it was a zero-sum game. She either had to do strength training or running, right? However, if she was going to reach her potential as a runner, as an ultra runner, we'd have to find a way to integrate the strength training with the running training. And to do that, she would have to get past this muscle soreness problem. The muscle soreness that we get from strength training that comes on and lasts for 2 or 3 days often is actually called delayed onset muscle soreness in the medical world, or DOMS for short. And it comes on after strength training or any unaccustomed exercise. And I choose that word very deliberately. It's unaccustomed exercise, not heavy exercise. And that becomes important in just a minute. Now, funnily enough, the exact cause of this delayed onset muscle soreness of DOMS, despite lots of research, is just not known. As of 2024, when I'm recording this, researchers just don't know what causes this soreness. Now, it used to be thought, and I'm sure many of you guys think it's like lactic acid, or it's muscle damage or inflammation or something like that, which are all theories that seem very plausible, but actually turned out to be incorrect with recent research. And like I said, right now, we just don't know exactly what causes it at a physiological level. That being said, the good news is that it only lasts a few days, and it gets progressively better with each workout. So if you do a strength session and your muscles are so sore afterwards that you can barely walk down the stairs and you're hobbling like you're like 100 years old, if you do that exact same strength session a week later when the soreness has gone away, the soreness of that session won't be as bad. It might only last a couple of days and it won't be as severe. If you then wait till it goes away and do it the exact same workout with the exact same weights another week later, so now it's the third time doing it, it'll be even better. You might only have soreness for one day and it'll be milder. And then if you do it a fourth and a fifth time, each time you do it, the soreness will be less. And usually after about 4 or 5 times of doing that given workout, you barely notice any soreness at all afterwards. In other words, it gradually goes away with repeated exposure to the same stimulus. And this is where the unaccustomed part comes in. You can actually go really heavy on your strength training on the weights, but as long as that is a familiar stimulus to your body, you won't experience much DOMS. It's like the muscles think, hey, what the hell is this? And they kind of freak out and get really sore. And then you do it again a week later and it happens a few more times and they go, oh yeah, this thing, he's doing that again. And they just kind of ignore it. I think of it like a kind of defensive mechanism that nature has given us to protect us from getting overzealous with our new hobbies. And this actually goes for any exercise, not just strength training. So you can take like an Olympic level cyclist who doesn't run and get them to do like a couple of 30-minute runs, and they'll have calf pain really bad, that DOMS in their calf, for a few days afterwards, despite the fact that they're very well conditioned to cycling. They're not conditioned to running. It's unaccustomed. They'll experience DOMS in the same way as a lot of runners do when they try and get into strength training. So the key to overcoming DOMS is actually just to understand the pattern. You're not doing yourself any damage. Your body is just kind of freaking out a little bit because you're doing something new. And once you've done that thing, once you've done 5 or 6 heavy strength sessions over a few weeks, it'll start to calm down and go away. Now, the bad news is if you take a few months off strength training and then go back to it, it'll happen all over again. Just like with most things with the human body. If you don't use it, you lose it. So we increased the volume and intensity of Jessica's strength sessions and we dialed back the running just temporarily. And she did experience an increase in DOMS and delayed onset muscle soreness after each of those heavy strength workouts for a few days. But importantly, now she understood what was going on and she understood that this was just a phase that she needed to work through. And after a few weeks, she'd be able to do those strength sessions and the running. And that's what happened. So after a few weeks, she was doing much heavier weight training sessions, 2 or 3 days a week, and was able to run on the day afterwards because she didn't really have any muscle soreness, in spite of the fact that just a few weeks earlier, lighter workouts were causing severe muscle soreness. And as that got back into balance, we were able to start to dial up the intensity of the running. And then in the kind of third month, we were able to up the volume of the running. And that's because we built the strength needed to support the knees so she wasn't overloading them. In a sense, with her strength training, after 2 or 3 months of doing it and making herself stronger, she'd now earned her miles. So when she started running longer distances, 10, 15 miles, the knees didn't hurt anymore because the muscles would support them. So 10 weeks later, Jessica was enrolled in a 38-mile trail race, which originally we weren't sure if she was going to be ready for, but things were looking good. So she went ahead and made the trip up there to do the race. And she was kind of filled with a lot of doubt. It had only been 10 weeks, and although her long runs were feeling good and her knees weren't hurting, it had been months and months and months of knee pain at the 10-mile mark. So when she hit 10 miles, she was very nervous, but as she started to get through 11, 12 miles and the knees felt fine, she started to be filled with more confidence. She cruised through the middle part of the race, but then at mile 31, it wasn't knee pain, but she was really tired. She was struggling to kind of lift her feet, and she tripped on a root and stumbled and fell. And as she lay there on the ground, she was completely exhausted and really didn't feel like she could finish that race. So she managed to pull herself up and walk on and thought, well, there's an aid station not too far away. If I can get to that, they can radio down. And unfortunately, I won't have finished, but at least I made it 31 of the 38 miles. But then as she was moving, she checked in with her body and thought, I'm not in pain. I'm just extremely tired. And she managed to convince herself to start running again, to at least try and finish the race, even if it were at a slow pace. So a little while later, she did manage to cross the finish line. And that's when someone said to her, you're actually the first female. And she'd won. And she couldn't believe it. She just ran 38 miles with 200 other ultra trail runners. And she was the fastest girl out there that day. And as she walked around the finish line, she noticed, hey, my knees, they're not swollen. They don't hurt at all, even after 38 miles of trail running. And that's because Jessica had earned her miles. She'd made her muscles strong enough to carry her through that kind of distance, to keep running for over 6 hours. She'd found a way to work through the DOMS to get to the point where she could include strength training and incorporate it into her running training to help her realize her potential as a runner. And this is important not just for her future or near future as a runner and getting rid of the knee pain so she can go back to trail racing, but also for her overall health and longevity. We know that strength training is incredibly important for us from a general health perspective if we want to stay active and fit as we age. And now Jessica is an ultra running champion, and she's getting ready for the next event, which is going to be a 50 miler that we're helping her prepare for this fall. And I'm really excited about that, Jessica. Maybe you could even win that one too. So the big takeaway here for runners is that if strength training is an unaccustomed exercise for you, you will experience DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, usually for 1 to 3 days after you do the strength session. It will get better each time you do that same strength session, but it is a phase that you will have to work through to get to the point where you can actually do strength training regularly, 1, 2, 3, even 4 times a week, and do the running without experiencing significant muscle soreness. It's okay to run when you have delayed onset muscle soreness. When you feel DOMS after doing a strength workout or any workout for that matter, it is okay to run on that. But there's not much sense in trying to do harder runs. So if you're at the stage where you're doing interval running, like fast sprint intervals or hill sprints, doing those the day after a strength session or at any point when you still have the DOMS, there's not much point doing it. You'd be better off to move it to a different day of the week when you don't have that muscle soreness. However, if you have easy runs, recovery runs, or run walks scheduled, it's okay to do those in the days after strength sessions if you have that muscle soreness. After a few weeks of doing the strength training, your body will get used to it, and you won't have to be so careful about where you put things in your weekly schedule. And you can just do your runs as normal. Now, if you're really into ultra running like Jessica, and you are having trouble with knee pain, holding you back, or any pain for that matter, and you think, as you should, that incorporating some strength training may help with that problem, as it likely would, then I would encourage you to slowly and methodically work through that DOMS. It'll only last a few weeks. It should get a little bit better with each workout, provided the workouts are staying at about the same intensity. And if you're not sure how to do this, how to implement a specific and progressive strength programming that is integrated with your running program in order to make sure that you get the fitness you need to run those trails and the strength you need to protect your knees when you do. If you don't know how to do that and you feel a bit stuck, then by all means reach out and let's have a chat. Just click the link in the description and book a call. We'll have a chat about what's been going on and see if we might be able to help you.